Welcome to Three Questions with MotionPoint. I'm your host, Dominic Dithurbide, and today I have the absolute pleasure of being with Alex Melekhin, Adidas' head of Centralized Content Adaptation. Alex, how are you doing today?
Hi Dominic, pleasure to see you. I'm doing fine. It's 8 o'clock of the evening in Europe, and I'm super happy to see you and join you for this conversation.
You know, it's 8 o'clock in Europe, but it still looks like it's shining bright right now. I'm so jealous about that. You guys have it very, very nice over there. Well, thank you so much for being on. I do appreciate that. And let's get straight into it, man. So, Alex, you've been in Adidas for almost 15 years. You have a very amazing career there and a lot of experience in the localization, content adaptation, and translation space. The first question that we have here for you is, in leading Adidas's global content adaptation model, what's the secret to adapting brand content that feels local while still staying, globally consistent?
Well, first of all, thank you for a great question. And from the brand point of view, we are the ones who are being the guardians of the brand. So
Hmm.
whenever we deliver any adaptation across over 70 countries, we are highly focusing on maintaining the global standards, on being aligned with the toolkits and guidances which were already provided by our colleagues from the marketing, from any
Hmm.
business units, sport business units. And we ensure that based on the local feedback, we consolidate data that being turned into the final asset. Example, use of the red color in Japan. It might be tricky. So now we know that we either need to change the tone or that we need to change the entire color. Additional options are coming from usage of the correct local language and
Hmm.
ensuring that copy aligns with the brand messages. So,
Yeah.
uh, relevance to the local crowd, ensure that we speak in the same language, and ensure that we maintain all the local standards of the ads.
Yeah. So if I were to say that back to you, Adidas really cares about the branding being consistent. It's just the way that the branding is manifested in a different market has to be spot on with the brand guidelines that you want to convey sentiment wise across everything. And that that also the way you described it, like the color, it's a good reminder for all of us, right? Like localization um isn't limited to words, and adaptation, cultural adaptation is not limited to words. It's look, feel, color, context, culture, and regionalisms. And that's also something that we must always keep in mind, right? And it's a good reminder. I guess I'm talking to myself about that because I forget about it too much.
That's absolutely correct. I can bring a lot of the options and varieties that we have to bear in mind when we deliver in any visual. So Middle East, you are not going to show the sole of the shoe because it's considered as an insult. So whenever we use the product shoots, we ensure that the angle and the force are being corrected according to the local necessities.
Yeah.
But in general, whenever you see any Adidas ad across online or offline realms, building wrap, tram wrap, metro tunnel wrap, I don't know, Instagram, YouTube, and so forth and so on, at 70-80% that comes from our team.
Wow. Wow. So you're really a steward for the branding of Adidas. And that we're talking to someone with a lot of experience here, folks, and it's very interesting. I think as a follow up question to question number two, there is, I mean, with so many channels like you just described, right? Like, how do you prioritize? Um, well, more so like what innovations or processes, impact make the biggest impact in your experience to being someone that delivers something with speed and consistency without sacrificing quality? Like, how have you perfected the process of cultural and adaptation for Adidas's marketing assets?
Another great question. So I see our area at the content factory. Basically, we have a unique position sitting between the brand that creates imagery, that creates video, that creates campaigns, and between countries and markets that execute. So we ensure that the message which was created is properly adapted and delivered to the markets for execution.
Yeah.
How we do it? Starting a couple of years ago, we scaled up the process that we piloted in Latin America. So by implementing the new tech, you're not going to be surprised of some of AI tools. By implementing automation, focusing on reducing waste, ensuring reusability of the content, we provide the quicker, like 18% more quick delivery of the assets at cheaper price, because since we're using more of the tech, since we ensuring that we produce less waste and more reusable asset, we becoming more fast and more cheap.
So what you're doing is you're making sure that you have a very strong grasp of what works, and then you try to reciprocate that messaging, knowing what works across new ads and new content. And when you do that, you have tech-enabled technology efficiencies that are able to get you to a V1 a little bit quicker using that information, and then that last mile is something that you give out to the local teams to put a bow on it. Is that kind of how the process is going?
That is a good description of the process. At the current stage, this is like 60-70% of how we operate. However, there I also aim to speed up the process, relying more on the data analysis. In what sense? By understanding a product availability that is linked to campaign launches, we would be able to predict what kind of content is going to be required for which country and what channel.
So you're really looking at inventory as well and making decisions based on the factors of supply and demand, but also like the business objectives, right? Whether it is that you want to get some inventory off the market, or in the customer's hands, or just sell more of what's been working. So like you use that information to predict.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. Plus, bear in mind stock on hand. So basically, don't produce the content which is not going to be used, or don't invest in the content for low stock. For example, if we have just 15 pairs of something, that doesn't make sense. So
that's brilliant. In my career, I've never had to manage a brand that would be able to think about having that efficiency. But that's I mean, it's common sense when you think about it and you say it out loud that you guys would do that. But it's actually pretty fascinating that like the orchestration of the marketing department and the media plan is the way that you're describing it. That's actually really interesting, because it really sets a parallel of Adidas as a company thinking about and your department thinking end to end, like not only engagement and sales, but like fulfillment. And I think that's not something that's always top of mind for other brands. So that's very interesting. Great nugget.
I believe that this is one of the reason of the consistent double-digit growth that our brand is showing through the past years. So
Yeah, Alex, just tell them. You tell them. Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. Um, that you're absolutely right, and that's just brilliant. So, moving to the last question over here. You know, I felt like I already touched on it a little bit, but I wanted to ask more, more personally then, and do a pivot from our original question to ask you. In the past, let's just say 2.5 years since AI really galvanized marketing and changed things, like, do you feel that when it comes to content adaptation, the way that you worked 2.5 years ago compared to now has shifted a lot? Could you provide us an example of um, what you're doing now compared to before, and what you think is going to happen in the future?
well, I wouldn't be able to give that level of details, but I can clearly say that the use of the AI definitely moved forward the entire process. What I can name as the main milestones of what we're using it for, automation.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, when we constantly working with the theme format, that is easy to deliver it as a burst delivery, if I correctly pronouncing the word.
Uh-huh.
So let's say 1,000 files, 1,000 assets being delivered within very short period of time, because it's not worked by hand, every asset. Second of all, is the cross-check in terms of quality of the delivered assets.
Mm-hmm.
And the last but not least is we're using a very little percentage for creation. Sorry, I didn't explain myself well. So we are piloting use of the AI for creative adaptations, specifically for the product
origination.
Yes, for the product shoots, but that is again being driven under the supervision of the brand. So we shown the opportunity. We shown how the final final outcome could look like, and what are the requirements from the countries. So based on this, brand is to define if this is going live or if it's remain under the test as for now.
Okay. Well, really interesting. Really interesting. And if I could ask one last question to you, Alex, then I'll just ask about, with so many channels involved, from traditional media, wholesale, paid media, e-commerce, landing pages, like is there standard operating procedure, or how do you prioritize what to do first, and is there like a workflow around this? Does it change individually, or like how do you guys execute on prioritizing adaptation?
There are different teams that work on a different kind of content, and obviously when we speak about the paid media, the priority is always given to the short deadlines that we have to achieve and that we have to tackle. So on channels, so they might be on hold until the key campaign or key pay media assets are being delivered. But again, we are trying to ensure that with the structural adjustment of the process, we not only implementing the new tech, but we also becoming very fast. So as I mentioned, currently we deliver already 18% more fast. And our aim is to double the digit.
Well, that's a lot of great information, Alex. Thank you very much. Any closing remarks on your end that you want to share?
Pleasure to meet and pleasure to answer your questions. Happy to help.
Well, you've helped a lot. Thank you very much, Alex. That does it for 3 questions with MotionPoint. Thank you, everybody. Until next time.